Get it drunk. Bros, I pick up and Dunkin' iced coffee. America. Bros, I pick up and Dunkin' iced coffee. And America.
Pretty proud. Pretty proud. I was thinking about Duncan last weekend. If you want to watch something good this weekend, a documentary, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but have you seen Donut King?
No.
Amazing.
On what?
Up and down, topsy-turvy, Netflix.
Okay.
And I'll just tell you, it's about, if you notice, California has more donut shops than any state in the country, and most of them are Cambodian-owned. And Dunkin' Donuts is trying to go into California and wage war against local donut shops, and it's like one of the states where they've gotten smacked around.
Interesting.
Yeah. I also think I think Dunkin' is I like it, but they're kind of moving into that convenience store food market, which is risky. You know that I love convenience store food.
Yeah, well, they're becoming a coffee shop.
Okay.
Right? Offering
I get it.
breakfast items.
I get it.
Things like that.
I get it. I'm also intrigued when I go on the road to see what the convenience stores are there. Heath Klein got me going a little bit. He's a South Carolina radio host on The Game in Columbia. Heath, how you going? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, how you doing?
We're good. We're good. I saw your picture of Buc-ee's. What is Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's is it's a Texas institution. It's starting to spread out into the South. It is the best gas station you will ever see in your life. It's got like 140 pumps, so you never have to worry about taking up space or finding a pump. And then it's like nothing else inside. Like they have a whole wall of fresh jerky, and then they have like prepackaged jerky too. Like they will do samples of jerky and like carve them off for you right there in the place. They got a full Texas barbecue set up. It's crazy, man. If you ever are in Texas, or now it turns out, I guess, random spots in the South, then you got to check it out.
You went with the sliced brisket sandwich from Buc-ee's, a convenience store. Really?
Trust me, I know it sounds nuts. And then the thing is, and I know you're a Northeast guy, Steve, so Wawa is probably kind of your thing from back home, maybe back in the day, right? But people say, oh, Wawa hoagies, you got to go Wawa hoagies. No, I don't do that. I don't do sheets. I don't do any of it. I'm telling you, Buc-ee's is its own little universe. You got to check it out if you go there. They have egg and brisket tacos. They have every kind of thing you could imagine, man. It's crazy.
Love it. I love it. All right, let's talk about the news of the week. And I was definitely looking forward to having you on to recap SEC Media Days, but all that kind of got trumped by the fact that Oklahoma and Texas may join the conference. Are you blown away by this, or has this been some chatter behind the scenes that all that stuff from a few years ago was going to come back around with OU and Texas?
Nah, this came totally out of nowhere to everyone. Like, there's total bull out of the blue. I don't think people are shocked that it could happen, but there hasn't been any indication that it was near happening. I mean, heck, just last week they had their media day for Big 12, and their commissioner Bowlesby is sitting there saying, "Oh, we don't even think about expansion anymore. We don't worry about realignment at night." And well, it turns out you should, because they've been working on this for a while. And what's interesting is it's pretty clear the reason it came out when it did is Texas A&M is trying to stop the train. Like if their AD was at media days, Steve, no AD ever shows up at media days. And just coincidentally, this thing comes out in the Houston Chronicle, and wouldn't you know it, the AD of Texas A&M is there and ready to talk to anybody who will listen about how bad this is, how A&M wants to stop it. Now, they're trying to stop the train. Otherwise, we'd all probably still be in the dark for a few more days.
So I know the why, right? Money is at the center of all of this. If this was to expand to 16, I'm more curious from the football perspective. In terms of realignment, there's been a lot of ideas floated out there, right? Whether it's the 4-pod idea, you keep the two divisions and move a couple of the teams around. In your mind, has there been a conversation about this, like what the football aspect looks like for the SEC if they do indeed add these two?
I think it's a given that the divisions are done, because already in the West has been way too dominant the last few years. It's not good to begin with, and they only have it the way they do right now, in part because they're trying to preserve a couple of rivalries. Well, one of them that they're trying to preserve is Texas and Alabama, or not Texas and Alabama. I'm getting a head start, guys. Tennessee and Alabama that they're trying to preserve. And look, who needs that rivalry at this point? Tennessee is the nail and Bama is the hammer every year. Auburn, Georgia has a lot of history, but I mean, at some point you got to just acknowledge what you're doing doesn't make sense anymore. You got to move forward with things that work better geographically. Having Missouri in the West makes a lot more sense than Missouri in the East, which is what they've done right now. I mean, there's just some things that need to be fixed. So I think we're looking at pods, whether it's 4-4 or how they do it, and we're going to have to wait and see on that. Frankly, ESPN is probably going to have a lot of opinion on whether or not they go to 9 games or keep it at 8 in the conference. So there's a lot of different moving parts here. But if they just try to cram them into the West and move Auburn and Alabama to the East, that would stun me if that's how they decide to resolve this.
You're in South Carolina. You're in Columbia. So, it's SEC country. It's also ACC country as well. What are the fans saying there? They like this 100%? They don't like it? What's their concern?
I think most fans would rather this not happen, but kind of acknowledge that it's going to, so I just hope you make a lot of money. When the reality is, South Carolina, since they came to the conference in 1992, they made the SEC title game exactly 1 year. And they lost, and they've had 3 years after that where they won double-digit games, but none of those 3 years did they get through and make it to the title game. You're already playing way uphill anyway in your division right now. Florida's always got better resources than you. Georgia's always got better resources than you. And Tennessee's at least potentially got better resources than you. So, honestly, what's a couple more logs on top of the stack that's already on top of you? You're probably not going to make it out from under. Maybe just get into a pod model. Maybe there'll be some year that they catch a good set of circumstances. And maybe they could sneak through the title game again. But I think they realize that it probably just makes what was already unlikely even more unlikely.
So I'm curious, you see a lot of the jokes too, right? That can't wait to watch Texas win 4 games every single year the rest of the time. So what's more likely? Who's more likely in store for the rude awakening? The fans of Texas and Oklahoma, or the SEC fans who think that their defense is going to run roughshod over these 2 teams?
Texas is the most overrated football program in America. I mean, look at what they've done. They won 3 Big 12 titles in 25 years. I mean, for Pete's sake, with all their resources, they don't ever live up to their potential. Other than when Mac Brown got it going. He had that one run of about 10 years where they were really consistent. Even Brown, they won 2 Big 12 titles. Other than that, they won one in 1996, and nobody else besides Mac Brown has won one. For all their ability that they've got, the money's coming out their ears, the location is great, the state is loaded with talent, they never live up to the hype. They haven't since Darryl Roy was the coach. He was like, last year was 1976. I mean, this is the most overrated program in the world when it comes to college football and the hype on it versus what it actually delivers. So, look, maybe they come to the SEC and somehow Sark is the perfect fit for that job. But if you watch Sark at Washington, it didn't exactly seem like he could get him to that next level. He got him from horrible to okay, but he never got him from okay to good. Didn't really get going at Southern Cal, so it's hard to evaluate. He certainly didn't get them from talented but mediocre to talented and doing anything. So why, if you put him in the SEC, why exactly is Texas going to be special? Right? To me, Oklahoma is more interesting. Like Texas, we know what they are. They're a bunch of underachievers year after year after year. No matter who they hire as coach, it never changes.
What do you think of Dabo Swinney saying that he's not really in favor of a 12-team playoff because he doesn't think there's enough good teams?
Well, he's right in the sense that do I think that a team that is the last team in a group of 12 is going to win the title? Probably not. I mean, you think about it, Steve. How many times have you felt like in the last few years there was a team past 6 at most that you said, yeah, they just made it in. They could have won it. There's a couple of times you can make an argument, but not many past 6. So I think he's right, but I also think he's completely missing the point. The point is, all of us who are not fans of these individual teams have gotten pretty bored by the idea that the playoff every year is going to be some mixture of Bama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State, maybe Notre Dame, and once the blue moon, an LSU, or Washington, or Oregon makes a cameo appearance. But it's basically about 5 to 6 teams every single year. Even if it boils down to those same 4 to 5 teams, again, at least now, people stay engaged. I mean, we have not seen anybody make the playoff yet, not a single time, with 2 losses. Well, that's not great to know that if you are Georgia, for example, you play Clemson, you lose your first game. As soon as you lose another one, that's it. You're done. No chance to the playoff at all. That's not great for maintaining interest. And I think Dabo is kind of oblivious to the idea that a system that delivers him basically an automatic trip to the playoff because the ACC can't play dead. That's not good for the sport just because it's good for him.
I also think being stuck in the now is kind of silly. I believe, and I'm one of the very few, John and I were bickering right after the national championship last year about the the fact that I think there is going to be more balance in the future. I don't think the superpowers will always be the superpowers. Things will change at Alabama when Saban goes bye-bye. NIL actually may. I know right now it doesn't seem like it's going to balance things out, but I think there's going to be more good programs. And the other thing is, if we don't change the transfer deal, there's going to be a lot of kids who go to, like Clemson lost a bunch of guys who moved out. There's going to be a lot of kids who go to schools and they're after 2 years are like, I'm not playing here. And then those players start to filter to other schools. So I don't know, am I making a decent case that there may be more balance and more good teams, like the highest level teams in the future?
Yeah, I mean, you make a case for that. And also, hopefully, we've seen teams that sometimes get better at the end of the year. Look, I'm a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, and I'm a real Tampa Bay Bucks fan. I'm from Tampa, so I can tell you all the horrible years. I'm not one of these dudes who's like, oh, Tom Brady joins himself a Bucks fan. The Bucks were not, in any remote sense of the word, a champion for the first 3 quarters of last season. They figured it out late. Well, in college football, it's been impossible for a team like that finds their mojo late to ever win a championship. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but that at least could be a possibility now that somebody who is, for whatever reason, maybe a quarterback change, maybe injuries, whatever, somebody gets it going in the final month of the season and is good enough to make it in, and then maybe something happens. At minimum, I think we've all seen what's been going on since 2014 and said, this is not great. So let's try something else and make it better.
Tell us about covering SEC Media Days. This is actually one of the biggest and best events you cover all year.
It's just like almost nothing else that they can cover. They put you in a suburban Birmingham shopping. I mean, I envy you guys who get to do West Media Days so much, Steve, because you guys can't in a great city, and you're not there for days and days and days. With us, it is a hotel in a suburban shopping mall in Birmingham, Alabama, and it's just hour after hour after hour, coaches and players. And then the one thing we didn't have much of this year, normally they let the Uber fans be in the lobby, and so there's dudes who think that putting on a Bear Bryant hat and being old makes them look like Bear Bryant. And so there'll be dudes dressed as a guy who died in 1982 walking around. And it's just, what are you shooting for? Who are you? Do you really think you've had enough cigarettes and brown liquor to look like that man? Come on, what are you doing? Why are you here? Haven't you heard Bear's been gone? You even got a coach that's better than Bear. What are you doing? But there's people, there was a couple that brought a dog, died who looked like a tiger this year. No joke. Second time I've seen them. They bring their dog there's people who bring bulldogs. So this year wasn't as much of a clown show as it normally is because they didn't let the fans in because of COVID. But there were still some that showed up outside the building. It's like nothing else. I can just tell you one quick thing. When Mike Shula was the coach of Bama, it's not a joke. Not Saban, not somebody who works with Mike Shula. I swear to you, Steve, 2 dudes, I watched them do it, literally followed the guy into the men's restroom. I don't know if they were hoping to get an autograph or get I don't know. For real, it's that kind of vibe.